Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Dezatopia, a quirky and unique indie shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Hey and publisher Hanaji Games, Dezatopia released for PC and Switch in early 2020. So this is a title that I can recommend, especially if you're interested in something that's a little bit different and maybe a bit more experimental in the shoot 'em up genre. It's one that a lot of times I even found myself asking, what am I even playing? It was just took me that much by surprise. So it's one that I can recommend off that alone. In addition to that, I feel like the game is just chock full of content. It's got quite a bit of bang for the buck. So showing a little bit of that, there's this museum feature that you can unlock all these unlockables throughout the course of the game, which for being a small little indie title is actually pretty impressive. You've got all these metadatas, characters, and even the story itself is like told through these short stories that you unlock throughout the gameplay itself. The options are a little bit bare bones, so that is one hit against the game. But starting the game, so you can have the tutorial turned on or off. If the first time you play this game, I definitely recommend going through the tutorial. And as far as difficulty is concerned, this game uses a rank system. So basically a variable difficulty system where you start on whatever setting you choose to put it on, all the way from -199, which is very easy, or rather 99, all the way up to hard at 224. And the game will scale based off of your performance. So you can start it on a -20. You also set your starting speed, and that will allow you to progress through stages faster or slower if you want to take your time. Speed 3 is a pretty good starting point. It is possible to adjust that throughout the course of your gameplay. So here's where we start to see just how large this game really is. So once you get to this point, you have a route select. And there are a grand total of no less than 21 different routes. And even as far as I've played, I've only unlocked all the way up to routes F. And there's just that much to the game itself. Among those routes, there's a total combination of 24 different stages and 21 different bosses. So for our purposes today, we'll start off with Route A and show them there. So you've got these stages that are shown here, in this case 1 through 5. You saw that Route F only had 4 stages. And then you've got several stages that are fixed after that, but in order to get to those stages, you must complete the requirement of the route, so which we can see in the bottom left here. To enter the tower, clear the stages within 15 minutes. Some other ones have ones where you have to achieve over a certain rank, where you need a certain amount of money. The requirements are different depending on which route you're taking. So if you want to complete a route, you're going to have to make sure you're ready for the particular challenge. So we saw a little bit of a blurb there about what our goal is. So here we are flying the Pink Aurora. So the ship itself is actually pretty interesting as far as what our abilities are. So we've got, of course, the ability to move around, but then there are 4 different guns equipped on the Pink Aurora. A foregun, a lower gun, an aft gun, and an upper gun. So the way that the guns work depends on which mode we have the ship in. There are 2. The fixed mode, which is the one we're using right now. In the fixed mode, a gun will turn on if you press the button and turn off when you press it again, and through that way we can actually have all the weapons turned on at one time, although keep in mind this will slow your ship down substantially. Or we can change the mode to free, and the weapons will only fire when we press the button down. This is my preferred way to play the game for a couple of reasons. A, you might want to only use certain weapons at a certain time rather than just having them turned all on. B, when a weapon is turned off, it will charge up to unleash a powerful, charge once you actually use that weapon. And that charge meter is displayed there in the bottom left of the screen. So each weapon is just represented by a certain color. Your aft gun is green, the upper is the yellow, the fore is red, and the lower gun is blue. So depending on which weapons you're using, you'll have the charges available to that. And also, as we defeat enemies, they drop money and also animals. And to auto-pick those up, you need to turn off all your weapons. It's a lot easier to do that if you're playing with the weapon set to free than if you had the weapon set to fixed. So then you have to turn them all off manually, potentially losing out on some money that you could pick up from the enemies that you've defeated. So you might have seen a couple times that there's been a grid that's appeared around the ship. So one of the things that the enemies are dropping, and I've mentioned this, when you defeat them, are animals. Those animals, or rather animal souls. When you pick up those animal souls, you get thanks. If you get enough thanks, then that generosity opens the shop where you can buy items like throughout the course of the gameplay. There's like 4 that are available. The grid will open up around the ship, then you move the ship towards the item you want to buy. So here we are at the first boss. One thing I do not like about the game is the font is terrible. So keep in mind, we have the ability to fire weapons in all the directions around the ship. This becomes very important in some of the boss fights, as depending on the way that the boss moves, you'll want to vary your attack pattern against the particular boss. Here we want to like attack maybe from the top, maybe from the bottom. It's can vary. We do also have a bomb that we can use. There are usually some given to us by default. It's usually referred to as +1 bomb service, and using the bombs we were able to make short work of the boss. Note, we started at -20 rank. We're now up to rank 8, so we've progressed from a very easy difficulty into an easy difficulty, and as you continue to perform well, that keeps on going up. So here we are in the second stage. We've just about earned a shop, so I'm actually looking to hopefully upgrade our life, but at the same time, upgrading any of our weapons could be very valuable. Unfortunately, no upgrades there, so let's upgrade our gun shot so that it actually curves towards the enemies. I could have picked up... Oh, no, I guess I didn't have to. So, you might have noticed some screen shake go on in the stage. There will be these little areas that once you find them, well, actually it's kind of indicated in almost like a watermarked bracket that indicates where hidden items are. And you shoot those, you'll unveil the hidden item. There are quite a few of those hidden items available, including all the unlockables that we have in the game. So the character data, the story data, the mechas, the illustration, speed ups, speed downs, life ups, max lives, that sort of, well, not life up, +1 life. But from the shop we can buy, in addition to upgrading our weapons, we can also buy life, we can buy life increases, we can buy bomb level increases. It's almost too much as far as what we have available. One problem that the shop does have, since it does follow around the ship and you have to move in the direction of the item you want to purchase, if you happen to be too close to a particular direction, up, down, left, and right, it is possible you might not be able to buy the item you want because you move and it moves it off screen or to an area you can't get to. A little bit of a problem. But there is an advantage to even just calling up the shop. Not that it's easy to actually time it, but you're invulnerable for the duration of the shop being open. Just a neat little feature. It is worth noting a little bit about the soundtrack of the game as well. So the developer, Hey, specifically did the game soundtrack on older style FM synth chip, specifically the Yamaha 2151 that was responsible for a lot of like Sega's sound chips, as well as arcade. A lot of arcades use that sound chip as well. So this boss is actually kind of tricky. The first couple times I played the game, it didn't go well. So you do have life that, as I mentioned, we can increase. But in addition to that, we actually do have lives, which I kind of view more as like continues. I lost all my life there, so we'll actually get to see that. And those are indicated on the bottom left of the screen. So when you lose a life, when you lose all of your life points, then you'd use a life, or a continue rather, and we can start again. And that is basically Dezatopia served up for your enjoyment. There really is just like so much to this game. It's really, in a lot of ways, overwhelming. So this boss is one that I did have some problems going through the route for the first time. Ooh, max life up. That's definitely what we wanted. Our hitbox is actually quite small, just something to note. It's that blinking purple orb on the ship itself. And we can collide with the ground around us just as long as it doesn't actually scroll us off screen, though there is some weird collision oddities that do occur. And that's one of my first minus flavors. It's just sometimes the bizarre physics of the game itself. Almost have this boss down, and bam, we're moving on to the next stage. Then we also have just that really hard font to read. It's kind of difficult to read quickly just with the odd contrast that it has. It might just be the shadows that are there. And there are also a lot of times where I just feel like the game can get overwhelming with how much is going on. You've got all these enemies, all these shots, and then you even have the shop popping up. And yes, you are invulnerable while the shop is open, but at the same time, trying to quickly look at what your options are and decide what you want to buy can be really, like, problematic. But that said, from a plus flavor standpoint, I love how much content this game actually has. All those different routes, the different requirements to get to the final stages in the game itself, the ability to upgrade and buy life and bombs and everything from the shop as you go. It's actually possible that you can encounter the shop multiple times even during boss fights. So if you happen to be lucky and get like life ups or full life throughout the course of a shop and a boss fight, you could potentially take a lot of hits and yet still be just fine because you're always refilling your health. It's there's no kind of about it. It is a very unique shoot 'em up for even just the way that the shop works alone. And there's all the unlockables that happen to also be there as well. Just the various like galleries and the story that can be unlocked. I really love seeing just that kind of attention to detail and fan service tossed into any shoot 'em up, really. And then really, I've already mentioned this one, but just how unique that this game is, with all of its different systems and its bizarre take to both shop upgrades and storytelling. I feel like if you're looking for something that's truly different in shoot 'em ups, then this is one that I recommend you give it a try. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.